What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode. So, in this episode, I'm going to be going over what does it actually look like how to create that 80-20 rule, or different ways of saying is like balance or moderation. We always hear these different guidelines, but it's still very abstract. It's still very confusing for a lot of people and frustrating because either they feel like they're doing the right things and like the goals aren't really happening, and or they're just like, I just don't know what to do, and so either they go one way of just completely restricting themselves or the other way and eating like a trash panda 24/7. It's like a back and forth thing. So I figured we could have a conversation today about how to actually create that 80-20 rule and or that elusive moderation that people are looking for. So that way they can still see the goals that they're looking for, they can still be healthier, but also make sure that they're living their life. So I'll go through a couple of examples that I usually use with my own clients to help them start figuring it out. But full disclosure, like a disclaimer at the beginning, here's something that you need to take in consideration. When you're taking the approach of lifelong change, when you want to make sure that you see the results that you're looking for, whether it's like, I want to be more athletic, or I want to lose fat, or I want to build muscle, or I just want to be healthier, but you also want to make sure that you do it for the rest of your life. The magic happens when you stop thinking of it as black and white answers and or start doing what other people are doing. And when you start getting obsessed with what works best for you. So there are so many different ways to skin the cat to create moderation. But ultimately, even if I'm providing these examples, the goal is to do some trial and error until you find something that clicks for you. So if you're familiar with like working with a personal trainer or in sports, or also CrossFit is another one, you'll see that coaches and or instructors will use cues. Okay. So for example, let's say I have a personal training client that I'm trying to get them to squat in a certain way. Maybe I'm trying to get them to have their knees track their toes. There's so many different ways to say it. So I'll say it one way is like, hey, have your knees track your toes. And they're like, I don't get it. And then from there, I can explain it in a whole different way. It's like, hey, imagine there are train tracks on your feet and they're going in a certain direction. I want you to imagine those knees need to follow those train tracks. I'm still trying to explain the same thing, but I'm explaining it in a different way. And then all of a sudden, maybe for that person, it clicks. But just because it clicks for that person doesn't necessarily mean it's going to click for you. So just going through a couple examples, but of how to create moderation and or balance in your life, that's worked for a lot of my clients. But ultimately, just keep doing trial and error until you figure out something that clicks. But even if it clicks at this time, it may change because your seasons in life may change. Your moderation and or balance may change as you go. And that's perfectly okay. So just make sure that you're always checking in, adapting and adjusting as your life changes. And once you start figuring out what works best for you. Okay. So when we're talking about creating moderation and or balance, it's really important because when we start doing diets that don't do that, feel very restrictive, it's only good foods and then you avoid the bad foods, you either follow this meal plan or you don't follow it, this very black and white approach, it can be very restrictive. And when we look at the studies, those who use approaches and or diets that allow them that 80-20 rule, where they have permission to eat their favorite foods and have social events and be able to fit that into the plan, they're far more likely to be able to adhere to it, not only within seeing results, but also long term. Because again, it allows you to actually live your best life. And we need to remember that when we do this whole nutrition and this whole fitness thing, this whole health thing, it is not something that's supposed to make you feel like you're trapped, which a lot of people do feel that way. They feel very anxious about things. They have a poor relationship with food, themselves, tracking the weight on the scale, the gym. Either it's like, I hate this thing because it just makes me feel like I'm trapped. Or there's some people that have personalities where they become very obsessive over it. And too little and too much is not good. We want to have that happy balance. And so always remember that nutrition, fitness, and health, they're supposed to be tools to help you live your best life. But it is very hard for somebody to live their best life if they're like, hey, Timmy, sorry, I can't eat the pizza on your birthday because I have mommy's Tupperware. Or, hey, significant other, we can't go out to eat, we can't travel, we can't go on vacation because I get very anxious about it because I don't know how to do it without falling off the wagon because of my new diet. Like that just sounds miserable, right? Or like, hey, so and so, I can't go out hiking with you or go paddleboarding or living my life because I've got to get my workout in the gym. It's like these things are supposed to help you live your best life. So always remember that is like whatever approach you are using, make sure that you're incorporating moderation and balance, not just because it's going to help you be more successful long term, but it's also going to achieve the original goal that we a lot of times forget. We use these things. It's because it'll allow us to actually have social events, create memories that we can look back on when we are 80 and be super proud of the life that we lived. So let's go into how do we create moderation? What does that actually look like? Again, there's so many different ways to think about it, so many different approaches. So I will do the top approaches the way that I explained. But again, you are more than welcome to build off of it. It's kind of like getting a chef status. Like all the really great chefs break all the rules because it's what works best for them. But for a fact, majority of those chefs started in like an apprentice where they learned the absolute basics and they mastered them. And then they were able to build off of that and start learning how to break the rules in a constructive way to really create a beautiful approach. And so this is what I want to encourage you to do as well. And so here are some common examples of creating moderation. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go over how to create moderation if you're tracking calories and or macros. But I'm going to go into another one that I think everybody should explore in some type of way. This next one should explore just because it is a really great way to do it, whether you're tracking or not. So I'll go into that last one. So stay tuned. But the first approach, if you're tracking calories and or macros, the first approach is like, okay, taking the whole day's worth of calories and simply just taking 20% of that. And 20% of those calories can go to fun foods. So for example, let's say that you have a 2,000 calorie goal for the day. 400 calories is 20% of 2,000. Okay. So 400 calories of that day goes to fun foods. And so that could be, hey, 200 calories to this really awesome protein bar that I really like. And then 200 calories to a mini ice cream cone that I got at Trader Joe's because Trader Joe's has these awesome mini ice cream cones that are so freaking good. And that's your moderation for the day. So it's really, really simple, really, really applicable for a lot of people that are tracking your calories. And also it gives you a very easy and tangible way of keeping track of like, am I getting enough nutrient dense foods versus my fun foods that I'm adding in there? Okay. But another approach is zooming out even more. Okay. Instead of just taking it for the day, we can take it for the week. So if I am supposed to be eating 12,000 calories every single day times 7, that's 14,000 calories. 20% of that is going to be 2,800 calories. I hope my math is right. I'm not really good at math. I hope I remember that right. But it's about 2,800 calories. So now I have for the whole week 2,800 calories. So Saturday, I know for a fact that I'm going to be going out to eat with my significant other. Or yesterday was my birthday. So a birthday dinner. Okay. I know for a fact I'm going to be eating some real good food. And so about, let's say 1,000 calories, 1,200, 1,400 calories of that day is probably towards a lot of fun foods. Okay. So if I say 1,400, okay, I had a really fun birthday. So 1,400 calories right there minus 2,800, easy 1,400. Okay. And then let's say the next day I had a fun breakfast and that was about like 800 calories right there. So we subtract that from 1,400 and the rest of it can be blocked out through the whole week. So I can have a little bit here and there, but the weekly average. So this is really good for those who really like to spend the weekends with a lot of fun. They like to enjoy going out to eat, or they have events coming up. That's another way to really balance things out, not just on a day basis, but a weekly basis, because then you can average it out. And then let's even zoom it out even more, okay, to a whole year's time span. And so let's say you're the type of person where during the Thanksgiving and the holidays, maybe you have like huge families and you go to multiple dinners, or you just really enjoy going out and having hot chocolate here and there. And you just go a little bit more, I like to say a little bit more on the trash panda side. Like it's okay to have a little bit of trash panda in us. We just don't want to be full blown trash panda all the time. By the way, if you don't know what a trash panda is, that's a raccoon, and raccoons eat out of the trash can. So that's why I call it trash panda. And so we want to be a little bit more of the trash panda during the holidays. Okay. That's perfectly fine. Like there's some people that can just do one dinner in one day, like it's just Christmas dinner and the next day I get back to it. There's some people that within their life, family, eating out, things like that, it might be a little bit more. That's neither good or bad. It just is. And we can adapt and adjust and we can zoom out during that time and be like, okay, during the holidays, I know that I lean a little bit more towards the trash panda side. So the rest of the year, I just need to dial it in a little bit more to balance it out. During the holidays, will I potentially gain a pound or two during that time? Yes, maybe. A lot of it's probably gonna be water weight or things like that because you need to eat like a complete trash benda over and over and over and over again for like a whole week. And that's not what I'm saying for you to do. But it will probably just even out when you get back to the swing of things for the rest of the year. And that is how you can maintain your health and or your physique or your performance over a year's time span without restricting yourself from being able to like live your life during the holidays if that's how you want to live your life. So that's another way of really thinking about it. So the next way of thinking about it is I'm going to share this with you. I always have to pull it up because I always forget. So this is a way of thinking about it. It's a phrase. And by the way, I did not make this up. This is a phrase that Alan Aragon came up with. If you're not familiar with Alan Aragon, he's kind of like the godfather of nutritional science. And he did a really great job of in the day and age where nutrition was a lot of diet culture, a lot of anecdotal references, not a lot of science behind it. And he was like, you know what? Instead of going off of what marketing says or diet culture says, let's actually dive into the science and see what that says. And he did a really great job of doing that. He's brought out a lot of the really great information that we use at Thriving On and a lot of nutrition coaches use as well. And he continuously puts out really great information, breaks it down super simple for not only coaches to know about, but other people to know about. So if you don't follow Alan Aragon, if you haven't read his book or anything like that, I highly suggest doing that because he's such a really great resource and very smart. And so this is his phrase, and this is what I use with a lot of my clients. Okay. So it's called Meg's Fabulous Figures Stopped Missing Fries. Say that 10 times fast. So again, Meg's Fabulous Figure Stopped Missing Fries, or MFFSMF. Okay. And what that stands for is meats, fruits, fibrous vegetables, starches, milk and dairy, if you are not lactose intolerant, and then fats, healthy fats. Okay. And so with that, what you're supposed to do is pick 3 to 4 of each of those categories. So 3 to 4 meats, 3 to 4 fruits, 3 to 4 fibrous vegetables, 3 to 4 starches, milk and dairy, and fats. And then from there, you add in 1 to 2 of your favorites after. So once you've finished all of those, 1 to 2 of your favorites after throughout the time. So this can be applied. This is what I tell my clients. This concept can be applied within your household because addressing your environment is a really, really effective, but such a simple thing to do. Because if you have the rule that we have within our household, if I sees it, I eats it. So we have a rule that we don't bring sweets into our place. We recently added the rule that we just don't bring alcohol into our place. Like we weren't drinking all the time, but it just made sense if we wanted to drink less to not bring alcohol in our place. So we just have a no alcohol zone. And it's not like we don't eat those things. Like it's not like we don't enjoy cookies or donuts or a glass of wine here and there, but it is just a really great way to make sure that we have to really think to ourselves, do I actually want this? Or is this me being bored or emotional or just craving something that I don't necessarily need? And you can really take a step back and be like, no, I don't. Honestly, I think I'm just bored. I don't really need that. Or you can be like, no, I really do need a donut, man. Let's jump in a car and go get a donut. So it really gives you a second look at your decisions and allows you to adjust and adapt if needed. So it's just a really great way to mindlessly help you make better choices. So it's just, hey, like in our household, in our fridge, in our pantry, and everything, do we have 3 to 4 meats, 3 to 4 fruits and vegetables, fibrous, like fruit, 3 to 4 starches, milk and dairy and fats? If you do, then from there, add in 1 to 2 of your favorite things. So one of them could be like the mini ice cream cones I was talking about. Another one could be like chicken nuggies, like because who doesn't love chicken nuggies? And then you have that type of moderation when it's within your household. And it helps you make better choices during that week. That way, when you come home and you're really stressed out, and it's so easy to just grab a sleeve of cookies, now you have all these options and maybe 1 to 2 of your favorites. So it's easier for you to make the best decisions. This concept can also be applied to when you are grocery shopping. So when I'm grocery shopping, do I have 3 to 4 of each of these things? Now, obviously, if you already have 3 to 4 of them at home, especially like fats, like I already have olive oil and I already have almond butter and all these different things, like don't add more into it. Like there's no need to completely fill up your fridge or freezer. But when you're thinking about, hey, I need to go grocery shopping and meal planning, do you have these on hand? Okay. And when you do go grocery shopping, that's how we create that moderation and or balance. This also can be applied to when you're eating throughout the day. Okay. Am I 3 to 4 options of each? Is majority of the food that I'm eating from these? Am I getting a good balance of all of these categories? And then adding 1 to 2 of your favorites after. Then I had an ice cream cone, and then I added in one of my meals a little bit of chicken nuggies, but I also had like fibrous veggies and awesome fruits and vegetables during that time too. So I had what I wanted, but added what I needed. So those are some really great ways to like think about the Meg's fabulous figure stopped missing fries. Again, say that 10 times fast. I'm not even going to try because I suck at it. So I really do like this option, especially if you're the type of person that is moving towards whether you call it mindful eating or intuitive eating. I lean a little bit more towards the like mindful eating label, just because when a lot of people think about intuitive eating, they're like, I just feel like doing this. When in actuality, a lot of the healthy people, they're not going off their intuition. They don't go off of, hey, I'm starving, so I should be eating. It's the same concept of like, hey, I'm thirsty, so I should be drinking water. It's like, hey, like if you wait to drink water when you're thirsty, you waited too long. It's the same thing with eating, like having a set structure, being mindful of I eat at this time, this time, this time. This is how I build my plate. This is my structure that I repeat, rinse and repeat on a daily basis. That is what is going to be best for a lot of people. Just going off of your intuition is a lot of times when people are thinking about it is like, hey, this is how I feel. But how many times do we feel something and then like the next day or like a couple hours later, you're like, oh, that was not true. Right? Like our feelings are not always reality. So I always like to say mindful eating. So this is a really great way to apply to your mindful eating, because sooner or later you're going to, if that's a goal, going to have to stop tracking. So how do I do some type of self-monitoring to be able to know that I am applying moderation? Because we all know, left to our own volitions over a period of time, we will slowly start going back to what we were doing before. It's the same thing with like, hey, I measured peanut butter for a really long time and I visualized what 30 grams looks like, but you give yourself a couple of months and all of a sudden it turns into a 2 tablespoons. It's like 45 grams instead of 30. And you're like, oh crap, I need to recalibrate. I need to hold myself accountable. Is there something that I can do for self-monitoring that doesn't have anything to do with weighing it, but still allows me to make sure that I'm doing 30 grams or close to it? So it's like, okay, instead of using a big old spoon, do I use a smaller spoon, or do I actually use a tablespoon when I measure those things out? So it's just like these little things that need to happen as well. So it's the same thing here. So I really, really encourage people to start practicing this, whether they are eating in moderation and or they're tracking their food. Because again, it's a skill. It needs to be practiced for you to get really good at it and get a lot of clarity and get the hang of it. You need to put repetitions in. So the sooner that you can do this, the better. This is just one way of creating a more mindful moderation. I'm sure that there are so many different ways of doing this, but this is one of my favorite ones. And so when you do apply this to your life, this is a really great way to reestablish your moderation, because we have to take in consideration that what we did for moderation before, how we defined balance, how we lived our life was not very conducive. And so I need to be willing and I need to be able to redefine what balance looks like for the rest of my life. Because remember, this isn't just something that you're doing, you're creating a new you. Because if you are just doing something that you're doing, hey, I'm doing this diet and this is how I'm creating moderation during this diet, you're putting an end date to it. And once that end date happens, you're going to go back to what you were doing before. But what you were doing before is what got you here in the first place. So we need to be able to change. So I also talk about this when I'm helping my clients create new moderation, is like, okay, so with that perspective of we are not just doing a diet, we're creating the new identity, the new you, the new healthy person that you visualize yourself as, or you see somebody as, and you want to become that. We need to now address that. We need to now define what moderation looks like to you, but also make sure that it's worthwhile. Okay. And so with that context, this brings me to the conversation of, okay, so when you see healthy people online, social media, like other fitness professionals, you're like, oh my gosh, they're so healthy. How do they do it? Well, I'm very fortunate to have a lot of friends, and I myself do this as well, where our moderation looks different than majority of the people out there, but we still live our life. Like, I still enjoy drinking wine. I still enjoy traveling. Like, I still enjoy eating really good food. Like, yesterday was my birthday and we went all out. We went to a fancy restaurant. We like had such great food, such a foodie. And a lot of my friends that are fitness professionals as well are just as foodies as me, enjoy drinking as me. Actually, some of them go a little bit harder than me, go to like raves or concerts or things like that as well. And it's awesome to see how they define their life and how they live it, and they're still able to create that balance. But here's the difference between those who are able to maintain their health and or fitness and those who try to create that moderation but do not. Okay? For those that try to create moderation but do not, remember there's a give and take. If you want to get leaner and or healthier, there's a cost to that. You got to be willing to give things up, because what you're currently doing now is not working. Most people, when they create moderation, every single weekend they're going out and they're doing the same thing, drinking the same thing, going to the same restaurant, doing things that they would never remember when they're 80. Okay. And that repetition over a period of time leaves them very unfulfilled and very unhappy. Okay. And unhealthy. When you look at people who are on the healthier side, and again, this is completely different for everybody. They all define moderation in their own way, but you see the trends where they don't go out to eat every single weekend. And they also don't drink potentially every single weekend. Or if they do, they have a limit. I only have 1 to 2 drinks. That is it. And I stick to it. I don't care. I stick to it unless it's something along the lines of once a quarter, they go balls to the wall and they go a little bit harder. Maybe they've got a concert or a rave or a birthday. But even when they do that, it's not frequent, because there's a fine line between this is what I do and this is what I do every once in a while. And I think a lot of people muddy that. They think that they're doing it every once in a while, but what every once in a while actually looks like is far less frequent. Okay. So when you're looking at a healthier person, like, they have limitations, they have personal boundaries. A lot of them don't drink often. And when they do, they don't just drink just to drink. They drink like drinks that are really satisfying to them. So that way they're really set off for the next couple of weeks, instead of just drinking another light beer that tastes like crap that you don't even like and eventually you're just going to be just drinking all the drinks that you actually want to be drinking in the long run. And let's take a look at events in your life. Okay. So, when you look at a healthier person, a lot of times they still go out and they do those things. But again, it's once a quarter or twice a year, and they go ham, but they don't let one day turn into 10 days. They get right back onto it the next day. And then they just plan out another thing. But every single time that they do it, they plan something that they will remember for the rest of their lives. All the money that they take to all these little things that they just don't remember, they put it to those grander times so that they can actually remember it, so they feel more fulfilled and satisfied. So yes, while they are going out less frequent, they are making better memories than if they had not. And they're potentially saving more money in the long run. I know a lot of people are like, I don't have money, but then they spend so much money every single weekend drinking and eating and doing these things that, again, you would never remember when you're 80. So those are just some of the things that I have noticed with a lot of people and what I try to do with myself in my life, where I don't do it as often as most people, but when I do, I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to get the most out of it. I'm going to create some memories that I will remember until I'm 80, because you do not define your life as success as to how many times you drank or anything like that. You define it by memories. And if we really take a step back and really think about that, it really helps us reprioritize our life and how we're spending it. So that's just something to consider right there when you're trying to create moderation, is not only what are the methods, but what kind of a person are you creating? And mind you, again, this is not set in stone. This is just something to think about. How do I actually want to create moderation in my life? How do I want to create that balance in my life? But also, what kind of a person am I becoming that I can do for the rest of my life that allows me to still have the health, the physique, the performance goals that I want, but also still be able to live the life that I want to? Obviously, no matter what you do, there's consequences to your actions. There's always give and take. You cannot have everything all at once. So what is that balance that is worth it to you? The cost to the gain. What is that balance that's worth it to you? That's going to look different for everybody. So I always encourage people to take a second and think about this a little bit. What does that look like for you? Rather than trying to figure out what I do or what Susie does, what is that going to look like for you that's going to allow you to live your life fulfilled, achieve the goals that you want, but also make sure that you're living your best life? All right. So I hope this helps in any way. I hope this is a really great start or a guideline to help you create that moderation and or balance, because above all, be all, I want you to live your best life. I want you to become the CEO of your health, and doing continuous diets that restrict yourself, make you feel anxious about your foods, and make you feel guilty for having a drink or a cookie or living your life. I don't care how quote unquote healthy your diet is, it is no longer healthy that's creating that circumstance, right? You need to find something that you can do for the rest of your life. Do not waste your time on anything with an end date. Do not waste your time on anything that you know for a fact is not something that you can use as a tool till the day that you die. Okay. So there's that. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them below. That's it. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining. Have a great day. And until next time.